We live in a place where we celebrate this skill. On Facebook with likes, retweets, YouTube posts. We build people up and tear them down at the same time. Some of us are so smooth and good at it. I didn't know I was tore up until I got outside and out the conversation. And we do so for the benefit of entertainment sometimes and gossip at others. Imagine if we could sit together in a room, in this room, a room like this one, and discuss instead the tearing up and down of people, instead discuss who ought to be the person leading us, the persons leading us. I don't pretend that everyone is perfect. I know that all of us are flawed. In the midst of those flaws, there is beauty somewhere oftentimes. And if we can find that beauty in those people, can we then also find the leaders that we need, the followers that we need, the errands that we need to push forward? The people that we want to speak for us. The people we want to speak to us. In politics, they call that vetting a candidate. I believe that we can do this. As I mentioned a few days ago, I thought I saw it happen. Almost. The room of folks I mentioned earlier, this room of about 15, 20 people, we started off by discussing the thoughts around the Cosby allegations. We moved on to talking about the death of black men and boys. We talked about education, policing, politics, and the importance of balancing both male and female needs in the community. We talked about ethnicity. We talked about all of these things in a very complicated and deep way. It was motivating. Some might say spiritual. It was a complicated conversation full of passion, intellect, informed by the minds of colleagues and some strangers. It was a safe place to say, I believe this, I disagree, I agree. A place where you could put your idea out there and it could get beat up and you may not. It was a sight to see. The kind of conversation we want all of our children and grandchildren to be able to participate in. Some of the attendees of that are in this room now. For the record, the conversation started around about 1 a.m. and ended somewhere around 3:15, 3:30. Had to put people out. Someone in the room said over and over again, it is the people in this room that have the power to make it happen. Over and over again it was said, and I think the same is true right here, right now. We wonder and think how, when, why. The people in this room right now are the ones that can do what needs to be done if we choose to do it. So my question is, are we ready to do what's next? Some of us have been fighting the good fight for a while. Some of us can barely spell fight because we don't know what that is. Some of us are in between. But we're all valuable and necessary. Are we ready to sit down and vet the ideas and leaders that we want? Are we ready to be honest about our skills and our flaws? And if selected, are you ready to lead? Are you ready for your Moses moment? In the case that you're not the Moses, are you ready for your Aaron moment? Are you ready to help with the heavy lifting? Are you ready to follow? Because that's important too. Leaders, I'm sure as you know, have a great responsibility. The yoke of leadership, they say, is heavy. And it requires more than just a desire to lead. It also requires a vision to do so. But it also requires the support of followers. The idea of America is a complicated one. So is the idea of a community. America is more than freedom of speech. It is also being responsible for what you say. What do we need to be saying in this community right now? America is more than the right to bear arms. You should also know for what reason you are bearing arms. and what you might be fighting. So what are we fighting in this community? America is more than civil rights. It is more than gender equality. It is more than the pursuit of happiness. This community is more than those things too. It is all of those things at least. But it is hollow without followers to make it happen. During our talk the other night, a connection between the that then, when leaders marched, when buses were boycotted, there was a community, a group of followers that bailed folk out of jail when the policeman came. That made sure their family was fed when you lost your job. That tended to your wounds when the dogs attacked. In 2014, who's going to bail him out of jail when the policeman comes? Does your money have time for me? Who is going to make sure the family is fed when I lose my job? Is your table not a welcoming place? Who is going to help heal the physical and emotional wounds that will inevitably happen? Or are you just too busy? One more like on Facebook, click. One more 140-character tweet, click. One more Instagram photo, click. Are you ready to follow? Or will it continue to be everyone for themselves? Are you really ready, or is your heart pumping Kool-Aid? We have a responsibility to continue to talk and argue and debate the best ways to build a more perfect union. We have become a community of divisiveness where ballistic language drives people to their corners. We live in a world that is too often defined by the limits of 140 characters in a 1-minute YouTube video. We frequently define people that live next door and around the corner by grotesque caricatures represented by drama on non-reality shows and websites that accentuate the carnal, the gross, and the violent. And make time for those screaming at the top of their lungs for 15 minutes of fame, but not enough time to hear the voices of those that are screaming for their lives. We pretend often in our sophistication. We tell white lies about what we have read. We elevate our opinions without the benefit of having our ideas challenged and facts in critical dialogue with smart people with whom we sometimes disagree. We do not know one another as well as we pretend. And we have separated ourselves from our neighbors. I want to encourage all of us to run towards the tough decisions and conversations that we have to have. I have a few topics for you to consider today over your second, third, or fourth piece of pie. Yes, Adrian Peterson, a black man, beat his son with a switch. He became the face of child abuse in this country, yet it didn't spark conversation in our communities, in our schools, in our churches, in our colleges, about the appropriate ways to discipline children. Perhaps we could start that now. Yes, Ray Rice beat his then fiancée in an elevator. She became the face of domestic violence in this country, yet it didn't spark a conversation in this community, in our schools, in our churches, in our colleges about domestic violence. Perhaps we could start that now. A white police officer shot and killed an unarmed black man in Ferguson. Another choked and killed a black man in New York City. Another shot and killed a 12-year-old black boy in Cleveland. Another shot and killed a black man in Dayton, Ohio. This in addition to the dozens of other male and females who have been killed in previous years. Yet our leadership, our mayors, our county executives, our pastors, our college and university presidents, nor our business leaders, none of them has asked for or demanded that we have a conversation and react to this. Why haven't we demanded it of them? Maybe we could talk about that. We should be demanding more of our leaders. We should be demanding more of our errands. We should be demanding more of our followers. In some, we ought to be demanding more of ourselves. Or difficult and to begin what is impossible. The people in this room can. The people in this room must. The decisions, the responsibility, the consequences, and the rewards are ours and ours alone. Thank you.